And what's going on, guys? Kale here, coming at you with another video. This one I wanted to kind of talk about the preparations I'm making for Pestilence, or Morgan Le Fay, and essentially the first horseman of the apocalypse, and just kind of the impact I think that Pestilence is going to have on the game. Now, the way her kit has kind of been revealed, it's showing that she's going to be, very strong in the arena, but based off of her kit in general, it's showing a very strong kit overall, and it looks like she's going to have uses in other game modes. Obviously, with the legendary tag, she is a prime candidate for Dark Dimension. It looks like she might be useful in War, Blitz, this new Cosmic Crucible. So really kind of most game modes, and, kind of as I've advocated in the past, any character that has strong arena value is really going to kind of help you as a player, especially with your kind of just daily core allotment. So the higher you are in arena, obviously the more cores you get, and, if you can kind of get in the top 100, preferably in the top 50, you're basically going to recoup any core refreshes you do from your daily energy, and you'll actually start building up a surplus, which is good for events like the Dr. Voodoo event that's coming up later this week. With that being said, y'all, looking at what is going to be required for Pestilence, it is still a little bit of a mystery. We kind of know overall the first 5 difficulties are going to basically, I want to say it's the first 5 difficulties. The first 5 difficulties are going to be very flexible with the characters, and difficulty 6 and above is going to require, in certain nodes, Dark Hunters and the Web Warriors. So, 2 things I kind of wanted to look at. First, kind of what my goals, I think, are for this Pestilence event on all 3 accounts. I won't know how realistic they are until the event actually occurs. And then also, kind of just my overall prediction of when this event might be occurring. And that's going to be kind of going off of past track records, etc. So let's look at this over here. This is on the Marvel Strike Force homepage on the updates, and kind of talks about the event. And what I'm kind of looking at is, obviously this event is designed to be scaled for the foreseeable future. At least that's how Scopely is kind of going about this. As you see, difficulty 10 is going to require gear tier 19, which we just got gear tier 16 in the game. So kind of what I'm shooting for. I'm hoping that Scopely is kind of overestimating these gear requirements. And I think what I'm going to try and shoot for, personally, is going for tier difficulty 7. Now, I don't think, realistically, I will have my characters, at gear 16, especially with the current, crunch of that. But I'm hoping, even with the kind of difficulty, I'm hoping that this will kind of give me the ability to kind of go 1 tier higher than what I'll actually be geared at. So I'm hoping to possibly gear myself to gear tier, I apologize, this lighting is garbage. Anyway, so I'm planning to go towards Gear 15 with my characters, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So I'm hoping Gear 15 will be enough to kind of do this difficulty 7. And I'm hoping that that's going to equal an unlocked Pestilence. It's kind of a little wishy-washy. They're saying you should be able to unlock Pestilence with difficulty 5. So I don't know if this is going to have to do with milestones or just generic points. I'm not really too sure. But I'm going to try to strive for at least difficulty 7. I think that's kind of a nice starting point. I think that should get me kind of high on the possible leaderboards. I don't know, we'll see. And as more information does come out about this event, I'll kind of start planning accordingly. So what I want to talk about next is just kind of the time frame that I'm kind of anticipating, and we'll hop back over here onto Mini, but right now we are still in the middle of patch 5.11 point something or other with the hot fixes, but the Dr. Voodoo event is supposed to start this week. I am anticipating, if that's the case, at the earliest, Morbius's event might not be starting until the following week. So we're looking at the week of the 14th. I'm thinking, they do these events sometimes very randomly. I'm thinking maybe Wednesday the 16th might be the very earliest. I'm kind of anticipating, I think they've said via the data mines, it's supposed to be an 8-day event, so 8 days from the start of that would potentially bring us to March 24th, which then the patch most likely would be coming out March 30th. I think that's kind of probably the latest the patch will come out, at the very earliest, March 23rd, but I'm kind of leaning more towards the 30th just based off of what's going on, and they don't normally let an event has to wrap up before they finish a patch. So I'm kind of shooting for the 30th is kind of what I'm thinking. Now, with that being said, if the patch does come out on the 30th, I don't think the Pestilence event is going to be one of the first components of the patch. Historically, when they do release a legendary character in a patch, the legendary is normally the conclusion of the patch. It normally wraps the patch up, and it's kind of the last little bit of it. So going off of that, your typical patch, normally at the very shortest, is going to be approximately 4 weeks. At the longest, maybe about 6, and that is not to include the longer kind of December patch that kind of goes over 2 months. But, so if we were to kind of start the patch on the 30th, I'm really not anticipating Pestilence coming or her event even starting till at the earliest, maybe about the 27th of April, and then the latest, May 11th. But I'm going to kind of plan for May 27th as kind of a tentative date. So with that being said, what am I doing over the next 30 days to get ready for Pestilence? And I think anyone that has not decided to work on the Web Warriors, now is the time to start doing that. Whether it would be you've invested a lot in your symbiotes, I get it, but if you are looking to kind of stay on top of the arena meta, I would highly recommend, shifting towards Pestilence. And honestly, looking at her kit, she almost kind of negates even characters. I mean, she kind of makes Dormammu less relevant, which is crazy because a majority of the players don't have Dormammu or have completed Dark Dimension 5. But I would say that Pestilence is more of a priority, even for me on all 3 accounts, than Dark Dimension 5 is at the moment. So I am doing a little bit of a shift, and I want to talk about the Web Warriors first, and we're looking at this on Mini, since Mini is the smallest of the 3 accounts. I think that's kind of the fairest way to look at this, and Mini is free to play with the exception of the occasional Strike Pass, or, those dollar offers. So this is where Mini's Web Warriors are currently at, and I have been working on them even prior to the thought that they were going to be needed or required in some way, shape, or form to unlock the next legendary. I just think they're a much better bio team than the symbiotes, and it just made sense on Mini. So kind of what I've done, and what I want to talk about is kind of my strategy going forward, is I think it's very important to get these characters as close to Gear 15 as possible. And that is a little bit challenging as far as the Web Warriors go, just because they do require those Oz formulas. So what I would suggest with this team in particular is getting your characters to G14. And in kind of a priority order, I would say Scarlet Spider, Ghost Spider, with the event in mind, I would then say Spider-Man and then Miles Morales would be your next candidates for G14, and then Spider-Punk lastly. And the only reason Spider-Punk is 14 already versus the other characters is because this was for Dark Dimension planning. So, again, priority, Scarlet Spider, Ghost Spider, Spider-Man OG, Miles, and then Spider-Punk would be the order I would recommend. And I'm kind of debating whether or not I should do an infographic on this. If that's kind of something y'all are interested in, let me know, and I can certainly kind of come up with something. But, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. Get them all to G14. The reasoning behind G14 is, in particular, Spider-Man OG and Miles do get a very large stat boost at 14, and that'll really help them. And then gear availability, if you can get them to G15, absolutely. Again, the same priority. And I would highly recommend building these characters to level 85. I think this is going to kind of help you maximize that Pestilence event. Now, knowing Scopely, I kind of think from what they have hinted, they said that for, I think it's Node 5 and Node 10 are going to require Web Warriors and Dark Hunters. I'm curious if Scopely will be kind of sneaky and one node will require Web Warriors and one node will require Dark Hunters. That's kind of the avenue I'm going towards, as that would be more of a challenge. So I'm thinking you need to build up both characters, or both teams. So let's look at Dark Hunters. Now, Dark Hunters are obviously not all in the game. It's only a 4-man team, so that does lead me to believe you might be able to go into these nodes with less than 5 characters, which could potentially be helpful. But when we're looking at Dark Hunters, I'm going to start building them next, after the Web Warriors are done. And I would say for this team, your priorities are probably going to be Morbius, Dr. Voodoo, Ghost Rider, and then Elsa. Now, the good thing about this team is that they are not sharing any uniques, if I'm not mistaken. Which, bear with me just a second. Discord is acting quite funky today, so I'm going to actually pull this up on my iPad because I believe I still have the infographic saved. But and again, kind of the same thing with the Web Warriors. I am planning to take them all to level 85. G15 if possible. If not, G14 I think will be kind of my starting point. Now, with the G15 thing, I'm hoping G15 will be enough to allow them to kind of complete that level 6, even though, or level 7 rather, even though it says that it requires Gear Tier 16. I'm hoping G15 will be enough, and we'll see. So looking at this, they all do have a different unique. So Elsa, her unique... Or actually, I'm sorry. So Elsa and Dr. Voodoo are going to share the same unique. It's going to be those arcane books, which I don't think is a super popular unique at the moment, or the hero uniques. Ghost Rider is going to be Miasma, which that can be a little tricky, but we're not talking about G16, we're only talking G15s, so that's not going to take away from any Dark Dimension 5 planning. And Morbius's unique is going to be the Superior Urius, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but again, that's going to be a unique that is shared with Cersei. It's kind of the only one that really comes to mind, and again, it's to G15, not to G16. So I'd kind of definitely recommend, Web Warriors, just because it's a complete team, and in the case that it does not require each of them, I think the Web Warriors have more sustain than the Dark Hunters, especially if you can only bring in that tag. If that's the case, there are only 4 Dark Hunters versus 5 Web Warriors. Simple math, the 5-man team is probably going to do better than the 4-man team. So that's why I'm suggesting the Web Warriors first. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm going to be doing, I think, over essentially almost the next 2 months, because it is very early March. I think this actually, in unconventional Scopely factors, it really gives you a lot of time to prep for this event. I'm kind of estimating we have almost 2 months to get ready for Pestilence, which is a lot, especially considering there's not a star requirement at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm planning to do. Once I do get those characters built up, I'm also going to kind of start a little side project, kind of in anticipation of the arena meta shifting. And I will start working on Scarlet Witch, so I'm just going to get her favorited up there as well. What I would also suggest too is if you're not currently farming any characters that are pressing for legendary requirements or anything like that, I'd highly suggest also starring up your Elsa and Ghost Rider if you haven't done so already. So I'm actually kind of slowly doing that on Mini. I'm basically spending 1 million in gold, leveling up one of the Pestilence required teams, taking them to the gear level that is appropriate with that level as well, and then whatever gold is then left over, I am going to level up my Dark Hunter characters. So that's kind of the avenue I'm going. I think with enough prep, I think people should be able to prep for Pestilence pretty well. I'm kind of predicting, we won't be seeing Pestilence until probably the end of April at the very earliest. So yeah, if y'all are interested in seeing an infographic on the Pestilence prep as far as kind of what I'm planning so far, feel free to let me know. As always, I want to thank y'all so much for watching. If you did find this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Hope everyone is having a good week. Good luck prepping for Pestilence, and I think I'm going to probably try to do a video like this for the other 3 horsemen as well. So look forward to that in the future. Again, thank y'all for watching. Have a safe and good week, and take it easy.